Today, young people from all over Philadelphia came out to start putting some beauty back into the earth. Two key speakers at the teach-in were Senator Edmund Muskie, a longtime advocate of action to reverse the destruction of the environment, and Harvard's Nobel Prize-winning biologist George Wald.
Coming into Philadelphia about an hour and a half ago on a plane, I was surprised at the Philadelphia Navy Yard, full of ships, and then came a lot of oil tanks, and then came that devastated area. You know, it takes a full-scale bombing to produce the devastation anywhere else in the world that exists in the outskirts of every American city. It's a kind of do-it-yourself devastation.
We've reached a point where our technology produces more kinds of things than we really want, more kinds of things than we really need, more kinds of things than we can live with. We have to choose to say no, to give up some luxuries. And these kinds of decisions will be the real measure of our commitment to the environment. It means choosing cleaner cars rather than faster cars, more parks instead of more highways, and more houses and more schools instead of more weapons and more wars. Consider the national budget for 1971, that balanced budget of unbalanced priorities. That budget balances $275 million for the SST against $106 million for air pollution control. It balances $3.4 billion for the space program against $1.4 billion for housing. And it balances $7.3 billion for arms research and development against $1.4 billion for higher education. Those are unbalanced priorities. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to say we cannot afford to protect our environment just yet. It doesn't make sense to say that we cannot afford to fight against hunger and poverty just yet. And it doesn't make sense to say that we cannot afford to provide decent housing and needed medical care just yet. We can afford to do these things if we admit that there are other things we cannot afford. False security we can do without, and prices we are willing to pay. I believe that those of you who have gathered here to save the earth are willing to pay the price to save our environment.
The entire celebration of Earth Day in Philadelphia was peaceful and restrained, a moderate proposal for change. But Edward Furia of the Earth Week Committee could give no guarantee about the future.
What we tried to do in Philadelphia, and I think we've succeeded, is to try to get a real mass involvement of middle America, of labor, of business, of the spectrum of society, which has really been kind of turned off to what students have been trying to do, what blacks have been trying to do. We're involved in a mass movement in the fullest sense of the word. We're trying to get public officials and politicians to think in terms of what is the social cost to society. And if they do nothing, and if this thing becomes a lie, then I think the Earth Week Committee may be replaced by a different kind of committee. Instead of a revolution of values, then the other revolutionaries will take over.